And this is not the 6 o'clock news. I'm doing these so I'm encouraging you to all stay in the higher frequency of light. And we're going to be talking about that today. Today, with my guest, Jose Hernandez, we're going to be learning about some messages from heaven, exploring the other side. And when I say the other side, I mean the other side of life. And then how we can heal with color. I'm so excited to be doing this interview because you're going to be amazed by this. So if you don't know who I am Natasha J. Rosewood. My website is natasharosewood.com. I'm a master intuitive spirit medium who talks to people on the other side quite frequently, a quantum healer, and an author. And so I really wanted to address what we're going through right now. In previous live broadcasts, I've talked a lot about it's a great opportunity for us to look in the mirror and face our demons. And I'm really noticing, I'm getting all these anecdotes of how people are behaving. And the energy on the planet right now is really being amplified, and the frequency is increasing, and some of us will be stuck in a lower frequency of fear. And that might look like bad behavior, anxiety, depression, grieving, all those really heavy, dense emotions that we can feel. Or you might be one of those people that's just really enjoying being in the light, is loving this experience, relaxing, really noticing how the birds are singing and the flowers are smelling more beautiful every day. So whichever frequency you're in, and some of us will flip between the two, no doubt about that. Uh, this show is about teaching you how you can go from that low frequency to a high frequency with color. So, like I say, my guest today is Jose Hernandez, and he lives in Summerland, BC, with his beautiful wife Anastasia and his daughter Gabrielle. And Jose is very interesting. Now, normally I would read a bio to you, but he has created this beautiful story in his own words in a video. So we're going to share that with you so you can hear it from his own lips.
I wound up in hospital for 3 months. My prognosis was you're not going to leave this space alive, so begin to take care of your affairs. My lungs shut down, my heart stopped. I wound up in a trauma room in a hospital, of course, and they're trying to revive me. And whilst they're trying to revive me, I have what is most people call a near-death experience. I wound up in this realm that was just, I was surrounded by color. But what was significant about the color was that it had the same life force that I have. It was creating this incredible sense of love and peace and calm and acceptance. It accepted me. It got to the point where the color was kind of drawing me towards it, or the color was moving towards me. I don't know which. But ultimately I became the color. And I finally came back, and when I came back, I noticed that the CPR people were just struggling to keep me alive. And you start thinking about all your loved ones and things like that. Whilst in the hospital, because I was in there for 3 months, was every time I heard that cold blue, I would escape to that realm where I saw the colors. And so I found peace. I found peace and calm. And the reason I'm here is because those colors, in my opinion, help to heal me. The memory of the colors and what I saw was so intense, and it just kept coming up in my thoughts all the time. I couldn't really get away from it. I decided that I needed to find a way to bring it to life. If that was what helped me get out, maybe we could create something that could help others. And not only in the hospital environment, but just to reduce anxiety and stress. I mean, the wonderful moments are great. We don't have to escape from those. But when things get a little tough or things are a little hard and we're just running, we need to take a breath. If I was healed with the memory of color, I'm just wondering if the actual frequency of color has that capability.
So thank you so much, Jose, for coming on today, and welcome.
Thank you
It's
for
great to
having
have
me.
you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Natasha. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, it's beautiful. And I'm just going to say this. I like to tell people that when we had our meeting 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and we were all sitting in front of one of your well, you don't call them paintings, one of your art pieces with all the color. I have to say we were there for about 2 hours, and normally I would come home and I was planning on being busy, busy, busy. But I felt so peaceful when I got home. I actually came home and had a nap for 2 hours. So I know that your art vibrates and has an impact. It definitely had an impact on me. So let's get right into the questions here. I'm sure people are dying to know, what is a near-death experience in your words?
Well, technically, I guess it means that you come to death's door. I was clinically dead for 5 minutes. So during that revival process, the experience that you have is what's considered the near-death experience. So while most of us have some kind of experience, there's a percentage that have no experience. But my experience was that one where I was introduced to the color. Color had this vibrancy, a life. It was speaking to me. So, of course, it allowed me to kind of look at color and things in a very different vein. So I don't see it as a painting on a wall or an image. It's more of something that's has the sense of life the same way I do. I just don't understand it, or I don't have the equipment in this physical body to translate that.
You know, that's so funny because the one thing I hear, I've been watching a few people that have had near-death experiences, and that's the one thing they all always say, I cannot put this experience into words. The other question I have for you, did it feel like longer than 5 minutes for you?
Well, the reality is when I was on the other side, my impression was that I was there a day and a half.
Wow.
It was a long, long experience. And I guess the peace and calm and that sense of love and oneness that we feel
Yes.
is what really kind of stays with you.
Yeah.
There's no translation for that because it's all emotional, it's all spiritual, it's all like just an overwhelming sense. You know, in my journey across the other side, I had the ability or the opportunity to understand oneness from a very profound perspective. As I approach something, for example, a tree or a bird or even the color, I could feel their life force. You become that. And ultimately, in my experience, I met my dad, who had died 5 years earlier. And we had a pretty shaky relationship, he and I. And when he passed, it was a very bitter experience for me. It was a lot of guilt, a lot of lost opportunity, that sense that I'll never get it back. And all the things we should have done that we never did were kind of eating away at me. And what I mean by that is that my dad and I, he had a sense of what being a man means, that we really don't show how we feel. And, you know, it's not cool to like be emotional or cry or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of, my experience with him was. So we would never hug, we would never do these things that I find so important now. Understand that before my experience, that's the way I was.
Yes.
I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
It was not what a guy does.
Okay.
And it took this experience to kind of really change the way I think about what
Okay.
being a man is. A man is just as emotional as a woman. So I think that we need to be able to
Absolutely.
express that. And
Yes.
it was something that I learned to do through that experience. So I
Well, that
am,
was,
yeah, go
yeah.
ahead. I feel no shame to cry. I don't worry about these things
Good.
anymore like I used to. It used to be a big thing.
Good. Well, that was my leading into my next question, because what I noticed from other people, and I'm sure everybody is different in their experience, but before this happened, were you feeling like you didn't want to be here, or you felt you weren't happy with your life the way it was going? Did you feel a need for a change before that happened?
Uh, yeah, if I think back, uh, I was living a good life,
Yes.
but a good life in the sense that I was able to acquire things and buy things and stuff like that. And I had people around me that cared about me and loved me. I had my children,
Mm-hmm.
and but there was a sense of something lacking. I had no real faith. I didn't believe in God. I considered myself an atheist before my experience. So
Okay.
it made my experience even that more difficult because as I was dying in that bed,
Yes.
and so people understand what happened. I had an allergic reaction to a medication, and my
Okay.
lungs shut down, and then it stopped my heart.
Oh my gosh.
But you're conscious during a large
Yeah.
part of that or a long part of that. You're able to see what's going on. So I went through a lot of physical experiences and emotions before I actually died.
Wow.
And
Were you afraid of death before then?
well, I was
Being
afraid of
naked?
death. I was terrified
Yeah.
of death.
Yeah.
My concept of death was that I would be shut off like a light bulb. In fact, I even had that thought as I was getting close to that threshold. I'm just going to disappear. I'm going to be turned out like a light and turn into blackness or nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then during the course of that experience, of course, you have that moment where you say, well, God, if you're real, maybe this is a good time to kind of let me know you're there. And,
Give me some
so
time.
yeah, come
Yeah.
in, help me.
Yeah.
With the mindset being, I will change if you intervene. I will kind of live a better life. I would be a better person.
Yes.
And literally what happened at that moment was that my heart became very irregular. And, I stiffened and I so badly wanted to hold somebody's hand.
Yeah.
And I, if you can imagine, you can't breathe, so you can't speak.
Mm-hmm.
But I could have held one of the nurse's hands or somebody there.
Yeah.
It happened in the middle of the night, so no one from my family was there.
Right.
And I thought, and I said, if I show this weakness, my dad would turn in his grave. He'll be like, oh my gosh. So I actually stiffened
Yeah.
and I did not allow myself to express this fear.
Right.
And at that point, when my heart became very irregular, I realized that there was nothing that I could do to hang on to this life.
Right.
And so I said to myself, I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up. But I understand that there's nothing that I could do
Right.
to stop this chain of events. I can't stop this.
Yeah.
So I embraced it. And I told myself it was okay to die.
Okay. Good.
And when you tell yourself that,
Yeah.
it's just such a dramatic change because it was instant, the sense of peace and calm that overcame me. And I
Beautiful.
got this crazy long hair. So there was this breeze that I was suddenly kind of like feeling
Yeah.
as I felt this warmth and this calm and this great sense of love. And I no longer felt sick.
Oh.
I was okay.
Interesting.
And I felt myself being lifted. And the next thing I know, I was in the corner of the room observing.
Yeah.
And I saw myself, the CPR team working on me, trying to get me going. And I watched it for a second, and I heard a voice next to me. Because I'm looking at myself, and I said, that's me and I'm dead. But if that's me, then who am I? I'm like, how could I be doing this? Everything that I need to see, to think is dead in my body.
Right.
And I heard that voice say, just think of your body as a car.
Yeah.
And you got 5 million miles on that car. So now you gotta let it go.
Bad.
So you gotta say goodbye.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, that was the first time that I ever observed myself with a great sense of love and gratitude for the opportunity that I had to live the life that I had lived in this body. Because we're never happy. There's always something wrong with us. We're always like,
I know. Not happy about something.
Exactly. And I realized that, how not relevant that was, how not important that was. And as I began to say goodbye to my body and appreciate it so much and feel so much gratitude and love for myself, I started to get these images of me holding my little brother's hands, these little benign things.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to say goodbye. All these beautiful little memories, like a smile, a hug.
Beautiful.
Nothing dramatic. Just all these beautiful little things that happen every moment of every day that we never think about, that we never really even appreciate. We're just so busy with life that we miss life.
Yeah. We're getting a dose of that now, though, aren't we, Jose?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing to delve into yourself.
Yes.
And instead of trying to numb yourself.
So would
by
you call
experiencing the outside world.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt, but would you call that, what you did there, just surrendering?
That's
when you kind of let go.
Yeah, that's surrendering to me.
Yes.
But surrendering without a mindset of giving up or quitting.
Right.
Embracing the inevitable.
Yes.
And having gratitude for what you had.
Yes. Yes.
And understanding that now something's going to change.
Yes. I got a question from Gary, and this might be apropos later. Did Jose think or ever use the term rainbow when he experienced the colors or in describing now what he saw?
Well, that's a good question. My experience was very simple. When I said goodbye to my body, I was led somewhere. So my belief is that when we transition, we never transition alone, even though we may physically die alone. But I went through what in my mind was a black hole, and I landed somewhere, and then I went through again what was another black hole, and then I found myself, if you could visualize a bowl, visualize yourself right in the middle of it, inside of it. That's the way the color was all around me. I was completely surrounded by color, up, down, everywhere. So it was like floating in that space. And there was a tremendous attraction. I could hear all these voices. And to me, that was the color speaking to me, and I couldn't really understand it. But there were millions. And then I was drawn to it. And ultimately, it integrated me into it, and I became the color.
Wow.
And I experienced so much joy and grace and profound peace and love. When I emerged on the other side, what I saw there was an amazing landscape, very much like here we have in the Okanagan. Mountains and foothills and stuff, and the most beautiful, amazing sight to me, considering I'm from New York City, where what I know is just a bunch of buildings and a concrete jungle. So
exactly.
it was an
It's so,
interesting image to have in there.
yeah,
But ultimately, I became the trees, I became the air, I became everything.
right.
And so I came across the mountaintops and I met my dad. But my experience of color was I was immersed in the middle of it, in a 360 ball of color.
Mm, beautiful. So not an exact rainbow, but just colors, just not in any form,
Well,
just
the
swirling.
color was what I tried to draw. So the color was moving. It was never
Yeah.
static. It had life.
Okay.
It it
Okay.
moved. It was happy. It was joyful. It was
Beautiful.
hard to
I
describe.
I know a lot of people say after when they have these NDEs that they don't want to come back because they're feeling so beautiful. Were you okay with coming back?
No,
No,
no. I did not want to come back.
no. And
Now,
is that hard for you now?
well, it's interesting because when I was dying, I was trying to keep myself alive. I would do
Yes,
anything to stay alive.
right,
Then when I was dead, I didn't want to come back. My father sent me back,
right.
and I came back because we made an odd pact, he and I.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
pact was that he said when my time would come, he would come to get me.
Okay.
And I felt it's still a little emotional for me now, 20 years ago.
Yes, yeah.
And that was
And
like such an amazing deal to me at that time. I said,
yes,
wow, okay. And then I came back. And then when I find myself physically in my body
yeah,
and struggling to breathe and going through all that pain and suffering, I almost felt like being on the other side and having that glimpse, and then being like almost kicked out. I felt, wow. I thought, what kind of a person was I in life that even heaven kind of rejected me?
oh,
And it was a
yeah,
very emotional, deep feeling. And then, of
yes,
course, I started thinking that, well, maybe none of that happened. Maybe I was a little,
right.
you know,
The drugs, the drugs.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny you kind of mentioned that. I have a girlfriend right now who's very, very ill, and she's been close to the brink many times. And she said, "Well, I don't feel like I'm ready, but I could go because she has to go in for heart surgery." And she's got a really great sense of humor. And I said, "You know what? If they're not ready for you, they'll spit you out. They won't take you until it's your time."
Exactly.
And I can tell by her voice that she's very strong. And I always say it's the will, not the biology, that keeps us here. And I do believe that we have there's a time frame, and we have maybe exit points that we could take. But when you came back, were you aware that you would have this mission of painting these colors and helping others heal?
No. When I came back, the first thing I had after I felt rejected
Yes,
was, well, maybe none of this happened, and maybe my mind snapped. And I thought that something was wrong with me. And I went to see a psychiatrist for multiple years,
right.
thinking that my brain was broken. My mind was broken.
Wow.
And I wasn't stable. And then there was took me a long time to even get my feet under me. So when I got home, it took many months before I could even walk and get around and stuff. So it was a difficult time,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if I had made the choice to stay,
Right.
if I could have stayed, because
Right.
my dad was kind of like really kind of gotta go back,
Wishing it. Yeah.
and then when I came back, and then you listen to your cardiologist at one point when I was beginning just to speak a little bit, and I said to him one day, I think I went somewhere,
Yeah.
and he said, no, 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 chemical reaction in your brain. Your brain is still alive for 2 minutes after your heart stops. I mean, this is a
Right.
fact. And I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
it made me feel like, wow, there's definitely something wrong with me now. But it took a while to embrace The event is very, very profound and very deep.
Yes.
And
Yes.
even as I speak to you, it's not a memory. It's almost a reliving.
Okay. Because
And
that, yeah,
and
that,
many NDEers will explain that. It's almost like something burns us in your head
wow.
in super high def, this memory, and it's never erased. And the
Well, I thought
reality
it,
is, I think about it every day, 10,
yeah,
12, 10 times, 20
wow.
times.
Because I thought it was so interesting in the video when you said when you were still in the hospital and you had the code blue, and you already gone through that experience, took you back into the color. And I thought, wow, normally people would go back to the trauma of that, but you went back into the color, you said.
Right? It was my escape.
Wow.
It's hard to describe to people
Yes.
how intense it is to be in a ICU.
Yeah.
And often we're half out of it, and people think that you're out of it, but
Yes.
we're still hearing, we're sensing, and we're still a lot more aware than most people believe we are.
Absolutely.
And every time that cold blue went off, it was like a trigger of fear for me, because I'm
Yeah.
thinking that's going to be me soon. My prognosis was you're not going to leave this hospital alive, so you need to take care of your affairs. And
Yes.
so every time I heard a cold blue, I know it's somebody else, but
Yes.
the thought would be, well, that's going to be me soon. And
Okay.
so where I would go to kind of alleviate that despair, because it's really a sense of hopelessness that kind of takes you.
Okay.
And it to get away from that, I went to that bubble, that bowl, and I
Yes.
was back inside of it, and I could
Beautiful.
hear these colors, and there was like this incredible sense of life and energy and good and calm and peace.
Yes.
And that's where I went. In my opinion, I believe that helped me with my recovery tremendously.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me because I've been using color as a healing technique, which I learned through neurolinguistic programming, the effect of language on the brain. And I'm going to do a little meditation at the end of this interview where people go to their happy place, they give it a color, and they inhale that color and they just absorb it into their being because colors are frequencies and colors affect us all differently. So that to me made a lot of sense. What do you think the message is from? I know everybody's different, Jose. What was your biggest message that you brought back from this near-death experience?
Well, to me, it's quite simple. I think it's to value every moment. The way I look at my life now is that this is magical.
Yes,
This is an incredible gift. I had that profound experience, and I was on the other side. And my view of it is when I transition, I'll be back there, and I may be there forever in eternity. But this is finite here. And it made this so relevant and so important because we take memory with us.
yes,
We don't go like a blank slate.
no,
I call that the preservation of the self. I remember who I was. I remember who I interacted with. I remember who I loved. I
yes,
remember who loved me. I remember all these amazing, simple moments.
yes.
And those became the treasure that goes with you.
That's very interesting because when I do past life regressions with people, um, I create an environment where they can go back into their subconscious and their soul. And I call it the DNA of the soul. Like everything is there that we've ever experienced, anybody we've ever known, any talent we've ever had, we can reignite that if we want. And sometimes in relationships we do. So um, some people call that cellular memory. I like to call it the DNA of the soul. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. I mean, the fabric of our spirit goes back to the beginning.
Yes.
And the beginning is, in my mind, that empty space where all creation took place.
Right.
And that's how I paint. I paint on a black canvas.
Yeah, you told me that. That's
And
crazy.
and the philosophy is that in that blackness, in what we perceive to be empty space,
Right.
is all the raw materials, the ingredients to create everything that we know, everything that we understand to be of this life, or that we believe is, so solar system, the earth, the trees, us, everything
Right.
that we see, it starts in this cradle of
Yeah.
life, and in it happens to be in this empty, dark space to me, and kind of reminds me of a womb
Yeah.
where life
Okay.
starts, and it really takes me there. So if you were to do a sweat
Yes.
and you go in the sweat's lodge is really a womb, and when you're in there, you can't see anybody. You know there are 15 or 20 people in there.
Yeah.
You can't see your hand in front of your face. So it speaks to me about what that blackness is. In that blackness, in that sweat, we're all in there,
Yes.
but it appears like there's nothing there. It's all black. And
Well,
yet, there we are. All
there
that
you are.
life is teeming in there.
Yeah. Well, what I loved about that, and my brother was an artist actually, and I never saw him start off with a black canvas. And I always think of black as being depression, the void, and of course we're very sensitive to young people, so many young people committing suicide. And I went through that when I was younger, and I just felt there was nothing but black. And I love that you said then you take the black canvas and you put color on it. And I thought, wow. So black is the starting point. It's not the end, it's the beginning.
Exactly. So take a
And that's
seed.
what I,
Take a seed. We plant it in the ground.
yes,
And yet it has an awareness of when it needs to sprout, when
yes,
spring comes, because it can sense more light,
yes,
but it doesn't actually physically receive the light until it actually breaks the ground.
yes, it's true.
So I look at it from that perspective. Life to me is one, the world that we know that's light filled. We're filled with the frequency of light here.
Hmm.
So the other is the world without light, but it doesn't mean that that world is any different than this world. So I could be in that world of blackness if there is no light there, and I could be with 100 people and we could be communicating, but we won't see each other's. It also speaks to me of oneness. It also
Yes,
speaks to me about how we're all the same.
yeah,
How when I'm with light, what you see is the light reflected from me.
yes,
That's what makes me. But when I don't have this light reflected and I am in my pure state,
yes.
I am still just as vibrant and alive as I am without the light. So I look at both with great respect.
So do you feel that you're in different frequencies at that point then? When you say
Yeah,
you're emanating the light, you're not. Because
yeah,
I would say to people, like attracts like, and as we go through these interesting times, people having different experiences, although we're all in this together, so we
right,
are all one.
right.
But some people are into the conspiracy theories, and some people are just relaxing, like I said at the beginning of the show. And I feel like if you can't surrender, shall we say, to the light, you won't be. First, you have to be in it to be able to perceive it.
No, of course.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Life
yeah,
is fundamental.
yes,
It's core of life as we know it. You know?
yeah,
And I love the sunrise. I love the sunset. It's integral to our lives here.
Right.
but I have a profound love for the dark, for the night. I relish the evening, the night. You know, I love to look in the sky and
Interesting.
see the stars. So each to me is as profound as the other. And there's
Yeah,
great beauty in both. You know, it's just perception,
exactly. Just
perception,
perception. That's it.
you know,
That's it. Yeah.
and the light energy to me, our light is in and outside of us. You know, we say,
Yes.
oh, you have an inner light. We have an outer light. And
Yes. We emanate,
exactly. And I think
right?
that's what
Yeah.
people feel. That's what we project. You know,
That's
so
the truth of who we are, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the undeniable me.
Yes. Your authentic self.
Yeah, exactly.
So, speaking about perception, how do you feel about this incredible ability you have to produce these fantastic pieces of art? Is there a
Well,
responsibility that goes with that?
it's a great honor.
Yes.
It's a great honor. I've been working with this for 17 years. I've seen these images change lives,
Wow.
you know, and so you get a better understanding of the art. When I paint the art and I integrate it, because I create it on canvas, photographically or whatever, then I import everything into a computer and I
Hmm.
create the soup. And in that soup is what we call the four elements. So I always have something that's fire based or something that's water based, air based, Mother Earth.
Okay.
All those ingredients go into the soup.
Yeah, because I'm looking at that piece behind you and I feel like drawn right into it.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
it's
it's three
just beautiful.
dimensional, even though it's flat,
Yes. Well,
and it's made to kind of pull you in. So you can see a lot of black in that image. That's the original black
wow.
that I start with. That kind of seeps through, and then I just keep adding to it,
Yes.
you kind of layer it together. Is the best way I could explain it.
But it
And,
feels like
and
it's vibrating as I'm looking at it. You know,
yeah,
amazing.
it's living.
It's living. It's alive.
To
It's
me,
alive.
it's living.
Yeah.
Everything is living. And, you know,
So, yeah. What
I
are the
just
greatest? Sorry,
go
Jose, go ahead.
ahead.
What are the greatest responses? Like, what have been the most unusual responses from people to your art, whether it's healing or just having a general response?
Well, I like I said, I've been working with this for a long time, so I've seen a tremendous amount of responses. I'll have people tell me that they re-experience a loved one. They reconnect with
Wow.
a loved one. They would understand now where someone that they've lost is. I've had people use it to heal, to manage pain. I just had a good friend in South Florida that had knee surgery that opted to use the art to help her mitigate the pain.
Right.
And she was prescribed a 30-day supply of oxy. And she said, I didn't take one. I sit there with your art and I meditate. Now, the art is engineered to have a light attached to it so that you could see the colors move.
Okay.
And when it has that movement, it has a tendency to slow your heart rate down, to reduce your blood pressure, to slow even your breathing rate.
Hmm.
And it allows you to take a deeper breath every once in a while. And
Hmm.
that's something that we don't do often unless we think about it. So we are kind of, because of the rush, the high living standards that we have, having to do everything so quickly and instant gratification and running, we're
Hmm.
beginning to lose, from my perspective, a lot of the basic simplicity of life, which is just to
Hmm.
enjoy it. Take a deep breath,
Hmm.
just enjoy that moment. And you know, it's very profound because when I was dying, I could not take it.
No. No.
Worse,
And
you think
right.
about taking a deep breath, but imagine you take a deep breath and then you can't let it out.
Yeah.
So there's no space for anything to go in, and
Right.
it really changes that sense of let's take a deep breath, and it really amplifies it, so it becomes so profoundly unique to life.
Yeah. And so
It
many
is
people
life.
going, yeah, and so many people going through exactly that right now, all
Exactly.
around the world.
And we don't
So
breathe.
what's your take then? Because your experience on the other side and what you learned about being grateful in every moment. And I feel that Mother Earth has sent us to our rooms for an attitude adjustment and really learning to be grateful for things that we've forgotten to be grateful for. What's your take on it?
Well, I think that we need to look at life as an opportunity and a tremendous gift.
Hmm.
And because it is that, we need to appreciate what it has to offer.
Yeah.
And we can't look at that through the lens of material, what I have, what I don't have. We have a tendency to look at what we lack. That
Yes.
becomes really relevant and important. So we push ourselves. And I gotta work harder, I gotta do this, or I gotta have this. And at
Yeah.
the end of the moment, it made me begin to understand that when I have it, it could be a blessing,
Yes.
but nothing is mine.
No.
We say my wife, my house, my car,
Yes.
nothing is mine. I look
Right.
at everything as a gift that we're allowed to share.
I totally agree with you because when I give, when I do my work as a psychic or a medium, it's absolutely coming through me, not from me.
Right.
And it's not about me, Natasha Rosewood. It's about thanking the higher power, whoever comes through. So yeah, we're all channels, really, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we're always connected.
Yes.
I didn't believe before that I was connected to anything or that anything could love me. You
Right.
know, why would anybody want me?
Mm.
And it's just because we think we're so imperfect
Yes.
and we're so flawed.
Yeah.
What I learned was how special we are,
Yeah.
and that regardless of how other people see me, what is really important is how I see myself.
Exactly. About loving the self, right?
Exactly. And, just enjoying every moment. Every moment is so special because we don't know when that moment when we're going to move on comes. The day that I passed, when I woke up that morning, I'll never forget it. It was just a regular overcast day in Florida in the winter, and it was
Yeah.
a little chilly for Florida.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking that I was going to die. It wasn't a thought.
No.
And then you find yourself fighting for your life in a hospital 12 hours later. Your family's at home because they're thinking, well, he's going to be
Mhm.
okay. He's got an
Yeah.
allergic reaction. They dropped me off at the ER and I told them, go home. I'm going to be fine.
Right.
It's kind of that to me is what makes life so magical.
Yeah.
That unknown factor is when am I going to move on? So what does that mean? That means that I have to live every moment.
Hmm.
I have to live it because that's why I'm here. We have to live our lives. We have to love our lives. We have to make the best
What
we can.
exactly? So getting back to your art, what is your most dramatic or favorite healing story of somebody having a moment and
Well,
recognizing?
I've had a lot, many. And I'll never forget, I was working with a young man who was addicted to multiple drugs. And he was really struggling with value, if he had any value.
Yeah.
And we sat down and we did a session with a piece of art. And he looked at me a little while later and he said that he wanted to check out.
Mm.
But that now he had a better understanding of the importance of his life.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'll never forget it because he was so wanting to overdose.
Yes.
Even I was like, we need to talk with a psychologist or a psychiatrist. We need to get you somewhere.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and I told him, is it okay if I call for help? And I'll never forget it, he wept.
Yeah.
And he said yes.
Yeah.
And they came, they took him. And even from the hospital, he got back to me and thanked me so many times.
Oh,
But
how beautiful is that?
yeah, and there's so many stories. I don't know, the art touches you in a way that you need to be touched.
Yes.
I don't speak to it. I don't say this art is going to do this, it's going to do that. I don't say a word.
Right.
The
Right.
art, to me, because it's alive,
Yeah.
is going to integrate with you, communicate with you
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
And that's how it'll work. And you could
So
just have it
what's your,
hanging on a wall and not even think about it, but it's doing its thing.
yeah, it's doing its thing. I love that. So I know that you're thinking about getting your art into some hospitals, some hospices, prison centers. Where are you at with that right now? And yeah, where are you at right now with that part of
Yeah.
the business?
So I'm working at multiple fronts.
Yeah.
The idea is to get the art into some facilities where we could create an incubators for research so that we
Okay.
could quantify
Wow.
the impact that the art has on people. So
Yeah.
right now I'm working incredibly enough with Penticton Hospital. I'm hoping to get in there. Committee has already approved it to get a piece, a pretty substantial piece in there. But also the idea is to get them into every room. Also working with Johns Hopkins in the United States. The pandemic kind of slowed it down a bit because the hospitals are
Yeah.
in lockdown now.
Of course.
But we're still working those things. And the idea is to get the art in there. You kind of self-curate. You pick the piece that you prefer while you're there. And we could actually study, does it help with the pain? Does it help with this? Does it, does it help someone that's going to transition more smoothly? Does it
Yes.
bring peace and calm and things like that? So yeah, we're really excited about that. That's,
I'm excited about it too, Jose. And what about if somebody wants to get, I mean, I would definitely like to get a piece of your art and have it plastered all over my wall so I'm always calm and tranquil. But if an individual wants to purchase a piece, how would they find you and your art?
Well, they could go to my website, josehernandezfineart.com, or they could come through you and
Yes.
access me. There are some pieces of art there. My art has been in quite a few galleries across the U.S. In fact, I'm going to be doing a project here at the Penticton Art Gallery in the end of November.
Okay.
Installation, which is going to be quite substantial. But you can find
Yeah.
my art there, and I could sell the 7x10s without having to worry about the galleries and stuff like that. It's the only one that they kind of let me work with on my own. So if anybody's interested in a piece,
Okay.
they typically sell for $125. We're selling them for $97. We're doing this
Wow.
program with Natasha here. So, and the idea is to create a little sanctuary space, a sacred space, somewhere at home where you could put it on. I will tell you where you could get a bowl light it, and you could experience the moving art and feel it. Talking about it, seeing it on video are two different things. Seeing it in
Exactly.
life is very different.
Yeah.
And that would be on a watercolor paper. I also work on metallic paper, and those would be more commissioned works. I work on glass and I work on metal. So it,
Beautiful.
it turned out to be quite a lot.
So the frequency of the colors can lift people up and just put them physiologically and emotionally and psychically in a whole different frequency of vibration where they feel ah.
Right. And the idea is to be bathed by the entire spectrum.
Is to be what? Sorry.
The entire spectrum of color frequency.
Okay.
Because I don't know if it's blue that I need today. Maybe it's
Right.
red. Maybe it's more
Right.
yellow. Maybe it's green. It could be that way, but the philosophy behind the art is that it exposes you
Beautiful.
to a vast majority of the colors so that whatever you're needing, it feeds it. It's like
In
watering a
that time.
plant. It's like
Yeah.
us taking a breath of air.
It's beautiful. Well, I want to thank you so much, Jose. I could talk to you for hours. But so if anybody would like to find Jose, his website is right there, Jose Hernandez, fineart.com. And I know Hernandez and I are going to be working with teens and young adults because we're both very concerned about the levels of depression, anxiety, and suicide out there. And Jose has his artwork, and I'm going to bring in my energy dynamics. So maybe down the road, Jose, we might be working together in a workshop. We'll see.
Sure.
So this part of the program, I always like to do a shout out to all the people that are on the front lines. They're my heroes. But today I want to thank the people that are respecting the rules, that are staying home, that are being considerate of lots of people that are vulnerable out there,
Mhm.
as well as the nurses, doctors. And I want to say thank you actually to some politicians, whether we agree with their politics or not. They've done, I think, around the world, with the exception of a few who shall remain nameless, have done an amazing job. So to give them support. And I'm going to just re-mention, thank you, Michael, for reminding me, on my website, natasharosewood.com, if you are having a tough day and you don't have any of Jose's art available, you can go to my Laugh Therapy page, and I've been collecting jokes and uplifting videos, no conspiracy theories, it's all good news, on that Laugh Therapy page. So you can go there and just go through them and have a quick laugh. So the other thing I want to mention is we're going to do a quick prayer using color. But before we do, I want to talk about next week. I'm going to have on this theme of death, life and death. We're going to be talking to somebody called Stephen Garrett, who calls himself an irreverent reverend, and he's a death doula. So he helps people prepare for the death process. But we were talking and saying how we think we have it all backwards. And I think Jose has just affirmed that the other side is where the bigger life is happening, and here is just a smaller version. So we're going to be talking about that. And now I'm going to suggest that if you're still with us and you would like to do a calming guided meditation, is just find yourself a comfortable place to sit or lie down and close your eyes. And as Jose says, take a nice deep breath in through the nose and exhale through the mouth if you so choose. And as you inhale, just think of a time in your life where you were happy. Maybe you with family or friends and you felt free and full of joy. Maybe you were a child and just playing, or you just felt loved. And as you inhale that feeling of great joy, give that joy a color or colors. Maybe it's a rainbow, or maybe it's a beam of 2 or 3 colors, or maybe it's just one radiant beam of one color. Inhale that color now and feel that color going into your body, spreading throughout every cell in your being, spilling out into your aura. and emanating out into the world this feeling and color of joy. And just feel as you breathe in and release and surrender to that color and that joy, how radiant you are, how your frequency is actually increasing and moving up into the light. And knowing that when you're in the frequency of light, everything flows smoothly, you are safe, and all is well in your world. Amen, so be it, and so it is. So thank you again, Jose. I hope you went to your blue place.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And that was a beautiful, beautiful ending.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And let's have your art everywhere so we can all be peaceful and calm.
Yeah,
Amen.
it's all become. It's become.
Yes, become.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Jose. We'll talk again.
Talk soon.
Okay.
Take care.
Namaste.
Bye-bye. Namaste.
Namaste.